The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
A Game 7 win over Denver.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Oklahoma City Thunder getting a Game 7 win in the Paycom Center to advance to their first Western Conference Finals since 2016 over the Denver Nuggets, just as we predicted before the series began. This was an impressive game from OKC because it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows despite the end result. When you watch the beginning of this first quarter, it kind of looked like the nightmare scenario. I mean, Aaron Gordon had an and one bucket to put them up 11, and Aaron Gordon had been toughing it out through this grade 2 hamstring injury that I have no idea how he played through, and you tip your cap to him for playing through that injury, just like you do Michael Porter Jr., just like you do this whole beat-up Nuggets team. But the Nuggets were the team that was bringing the level of intensity needed to win a Game 7. They were just amazing on the glass, outworking Oklahoma City. They were hitting more shots than the Thunder were. The Thunder could not hit wide open threes. And again, losing those hustle points, at the start of this game to get down 11 with the defensive lapses of like backdoor cuts and second chance points and all the different ways that Denver was creating that lead. You thought, okay, well, here it is. This is a young team, and you kind of know which way this game is trending. And then the Thunder settled in and showed you great maturity. They showed you who they've been all year. All year, this team has been an anomaly. This team has done things that young teams are not supposed to do. This team has been a historically great defense, and all those things bared out in this game because the Thunder had a great close to the first quarter to trim that lead down to 5. And then the Thunder make an adjustment, leaving Shea in the game to start the second quarter and take the lead for the first time at the start of the second quarter, and then put Shea back on the bench to steal him some rest, which I thought was a masterful job by Mark. We'll talk more about that coming up. But after the Thunder get control of this lead, that was all she wrote. There was a couple more ties in there, but past that, it was Oklahoma City who ends up getting the extension of the lead heading into halftime, up double digits, and then blew this game out of the water at one point, going up by 43 points, but maintaining vast control of this game from the third quarter on, even though Nikola Jokic plays the entire third quarter and Nikola Jokic fought his guts out, but the Thunder were able to really make life hard on him. He took 9 total shot attempts. The best player in the world in a Game 7 took 9 total shot attempts with 11 free throws to boot to tally up to a 20-point outing, which is not what you expect Jokic to do in a Game 7, not to mention his 5 turnovers. He had 7 assists and he had 9 rebounds. So Jokic was just not granted opportunities in this game because of the Thunder's defense. And this is where it all starts. How do you correct a laboring half-court offense in the midst of the postseason? You can't go make roster moves. You can't completely overhaul your identity. You can make minor tweaks, but you can also just don't play half-court offense. Get out and run. Get out in transition. And that's what Oklahoma City was able to do because they were tight in the rebounding category. And we mentioned how they started out so poorly in that category, but they end up 47-44 in Denver's favor. And they were wide in the turnover category where the Denver Nuggets turned it over 22 times in a Game 7 to Oklahoma City's 9. And the Thunder were able to get out and run with 27 fast break points. The Thunder regrouped on the second chance points, which was Denver's way early, ends up 19-14. And the Thunder dominate points in the paint, 64-42. A lot of that in transition, but a lot of that was the minor tweaks we talked about with the half-court offense of SGA and Jalen Williams and these guys playing with more offensive force at the rim and really attacking Denver and going up stronger and being able to finish around the rim better in a series that they've had some struggles finishing around the rim, and the Thunder were able to do just that. I thought that their ability to respond to a lapse to start the game showed you great growth, and it shows you why this team continues to buck the trends. The Thunder held Denver to shooting 39% from the floor, 22% from three, and 77% from the free throw line, while OKC shot 49% from the floor, 30% from three, and 79% from the free throw line. Why was Nikola Jokic denied the basketball? Why did Nikola Jokic only shoot one field goal attempt in the 12 minutes he played in the third quarter? Because he quite literally could not get the ball. The best player in the world could not get the ball because as he went through this series, and this has not been a banner series for Nikola Jokic. He's had a loud game 1, a loud game 5, both in losses. He's been game 6 was awesome for him. He's been able to get to the box score that you want from him, but it's been a really tough track to get there. His most efficient nights, in my opinion, were game 5 and game 6. Deeper in this series, as he figured out the Thunder's double big lineup, as he figured out the J-Will curveball. And in game 7, as he's in game 6, the most comfortable he's been all series, in my opinion, in game 5 as well. Game 7, the Thunder go to a heavy dose of Alex Caruso. And Alex Caruso lived inside Nikola Jokic's jersey. He just never let Nikola Jokic touch the basketball. Yes, he was all over him. Yes, he was smothering him. Yes, he was swatting at him. Yes, he was frustrating him. No complaints over here. I mean, that's the way you have to play. That's the way that it takes to win a game 7. And the Thunder being able to harass him at the catch point is what's been able to turn in these blowout wins. What did we talk about after game 2 and now after game 7? Is that style of play against Jokic sustainable? No. But why is it not sustainable? People are going to talk about how the Thunder have figured out Jokic. They have not. The Thunder have gotten the benefit of, you got 2 blowout wins in this series because 2 different officiating crews had different lines, a line of demarcation of what constitutes a foul and not when you're contesting for the basketball on entry passes. And that's the big difference. If you have to stop Jokic, you have to have the combination of the two. You have to have the players who are willing to put their bodies on the line and play extremely physical with this giant, like you have in Kaysen, like you have in Caruso, like you have in J-Dub, like you have in J-Will, who didn't get to play today, but still has been that all series. You have to have that, and you have to have an officiating crew who's not going to call every ticky-tack foul. And that's what the Thunder got the benefit of tonight, and that's out of their control. All they can control is the physicality of which they play with. And if it would have backfired on them, it would have backfired on them. But this officiating crew saw it differently. And so, yes, they hounded the ever-loving crap out of Nikola Jokic, and you could call 1 or 2 plays a different way. But ultimately, that's the only solace Denver can take, is that maybe Caruso accidentally swatted Jokic on the wrist and it would have been a foul away from the basket. Okay, sure. But guess what? The Thunder put him in jail, locked him up, and won game 7. I mean, it's all over but the crying in Denver. They've cried all series long, and this is a 68-win team with a historically great defense that went out and won this game. That's what it is. They went out and took this game because you weren't saying anything when the lead was 11. You weren't saying anything before Alex Caruso got into the ball game, and Alex Caruso gets in there and he makes change happen. So don't give me this stuff about Caruso wasn't effective on Jokic. He absolutely was. Do 29 other teams or 28 other teams have Caruso? No. Did 28 other teams have guards to play underneath and physically and stand up to him trying to back you down the way the Thunder do? Absolutely not. That's what makes the Thunder such a unique matchup for Jokic specifically. Does that mean it's sustainable? It is not, because you get into an area where you either give away fouls and thus can't play that aggressively, or refs call ticky-tack stuff and you can't play that aggressively. It's the same thing as game 2. You never apologize for winning. You never apologize for stuff out of your control. It's not in your control of how the refs dictated this game. You went and forced the issue. You went and forced the refs to not call it that way by setting a tone of physicality. And that's what you want in the sport of basketball. You want physical play until it happens against your favorite team. Then all of a sudden, you want ticky-tack calls. This is just what life is. The life is, when you play against the Thunder for 48 minutes, you are going to be harassed. You are going to be just absolutely punked defensively. I mean, they are going to make your life just miserable. And they're going to get foul calls. They fouled a lot tonight, and they were called for 19 fouls. Denver got to the line for 22 free throws in a game in which they just outright quit. A game that they outright quit in a game 7. Because like we said, one field goal attempt from Nikola Jokic in the third quarter. You just could not get the ball. But you look at the first half, and it was 16 free throws to 5 for Denver. So the free throw thing got tighter because the game was a nothing burger. But when the game was in the balance, Thunder got called for a lot of fouls. Thunder didn't care. Thunder still made the best of their opportunities. And Alex Caruso deserves a lot of credit for how he defended Nikola Jokic. And that's the best player in the world. And that's a guy who you cannot stop. You need a lot of luck to go your way to stop him. And you need a lot of luck in general to win a championship. That's why I've always been against title or bust being the line for success. Because at the end of the day, you need a lot of luck. What happens if Aaron Gordon is healthy in this game? What happens if MPJ is healthy this whole series? We'll never know. We'll never know. You can cry about it. You can write songs about it. You can do podcasts about it. You can write articles about it. We're never going to know. What happens last year if the East is healthy? We're never going to know. What do we do know? The Boston Celtics are NBA champions from last season. What do we do know about this series? The Thunder won the series in 7 games. That's all we know. And the Thunder did it by going out and taking this Game 7 at home against the championship battle-tested Nuggets team, their first ever win against a competent, quality playoff opponent. And they got it in a big Game 7.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes it easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
It is time for Pacers Knicks.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
And I'm looking forward to, Tony, a series I think we both think is going to be even better than last year's 7-game slugfest.
Both teams are better, right? And last year's was obviously headlined by some non-basketball things on the Knicks side. Unfortunately, this year, both healthy, both feeling better. Both of these teams, the last time they made the finals, guess who they beat? The team they're currently playing in the conference finals.
Yeah.
2 guys who have this like WWE fake beef thing, even though they're really friends, thing going on that'll be really fun. I can't wait. It's like perfect. For anyone older than like 25, this is like a perfect series.
Yeah, it is incredibly exciting. And I think tactically, again, somehow even more interesting than last year. And I thought last year was pretty fun. But we're going to start off talking about our respective teams. I want to know what exactly clicked for Indiana as they dismantle the Bucks. They dismantle the Cavs. They seem to have some of that same late game magic the Knicks do, where both these teams are putting up comebacks like we've never seen in NBA history and doing it multiple times. When I talked to you in the regular season, you told me that you weren't sure if this year's group had as high of a ceiling because the defense was better, the offense wasn't quite as good, and that maybe translated to more consistency, but maybe not an ability, we both presumed, to go out and dominate a team like Cleveland as they did. Was that series more about what Cleveland didn't do and their injury issues and their lack of shooting? I know Indiana as a team is shooting 40% from 3 in the playoffs. Is it just hot shooting? Or has a team that since January 1st has been a top 5 team in the NBA played like that and perhaps even better heading into these playoffs?
Yeah, that's it. It says like that. I was not concerned, but I wondered if their offense could get to last year's levels. And guess what? They have the best offensive rating in the playoffs of any team that's still playing. They're back to that, right? And so forget what I said and whatever time we said that. Yeah. Like they're just scoring so well. And like the signs that this was possible were very obvious, right? They had a top 5 effective field goal percentage this season, despite having like a miserable first 25 games. They generate and make good shots. They have shot makers on the team from like any level of the floor. It's just at times this season, even when they were playing their best, like winning all these clutch games late in the season, it was like, hey, should you really be going to crunch time against the Brooklyn Nets twice in a week? Like, but it was still there that they could score. And so when they like really dial into an opponent and they can figure out how these coverages evolve throughout a series and they can problem solve, they're just so hard to guard for a 7-game series. Even when they lose, Joe Mazzulla's like, yeah, that was the hardest team we played this year. It's like, this is what they can do in this setting. And here they are again, like you said, top 4 or 5 record since January 1st. And they just ran through a 64-win team because they can score so easily that they set the pace in the terms of engagement on defense, and their defense is better than last year. So that helps too. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this team is like really good, really good.
I think that problem solving, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. Second segment, and we'll touch on a third segment. That is my biggest concern for the Knicks in this series. A team that looked incredibly locked in Game 6 against the Celtics and for quarters and halves against the Celtics. And outside of that has been pretty miserable just in terms of like nailing their own defensive scheme. And I think that could just kill them against the Pacers. But for now, I want to know a little bit about Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, he comes into this series in a very different place than he did last year, where like that injury was still potentially bothering him. He had a very weird second half of the season, 2023, 2024. Somewhat weird start to this year where our guy Matt George was posting revenge graphics and talking about how much better De'Aaron Fox is than him. And lo and behold, Halliburton figures it out second half of the year, seems to be fully healthy, seems, as far as I can tell, to be playing the best basketball of his life, maybe the most underappreciated superstar in the league, and not someone I expect to come out and put out like a 6-point stinker like he did early in that series a year ago. What is new with Tyrese Halliburton this year, especially relative to that series last season?
Yeah, he now has as many conference finals since 2024 as the Kings franchise, so I don't think those graphics will last much longer. Yeah, really good player. You know, the thing, like last year he dealt with all the things that you talked about with the injuries and stuff, but what he actually dealt with as he ascended to All-NBA status from like, you know, back-end all-star was teams started to change their defenses to guard him and like make it hard for him to do the things he's good at. Around Christmas time, it was here's all these blitzes and traps, and then you know, it evolved when they changed their starting five to this and that, and you know, the pick and roll coverage just changed. So you'd have like pockets of the season in 2023-24 where he wasn't quite as good, and then he'd figure out what that looked like, and he'd be better coming out on the other side. And so last year, game one against the Bucks, not very awesome. Game one against the Knicks, not awesome. And it's like this huge story about, you know, it's the wrong word to use. People say be aggressive. Like, it's not about aggressive for him. It's about his reads of a defense and getting into the paint. Regardless of my own opinions on that, you know, he like worked through a coverage or worked through, okay, here's what this team is doing. Here's how I do what I do best to beat it. Right. That was like the evolution of his game. And so now this year, he started the season dealing with these injuries and wasn't playing very well, and it was a huge story. But once he got healthy, now he's seen all this, right? Mm-hmm. He's seen every coverage. His team is exactly the same as last year. So they collectively have seen how he responds to those coverages and gets them open. And so it's not as easy for him to be slowed down, one, and it's not as challenging for him to start a series and go, okay, what are they doing? What do I have to do to beat this? Like, he's more ready right away to me. And so it wasn't like an amazing start to the Bucks series. It was way better than last year. And the Cavs series, he was, 20-something in the game one that year. Like, he has figured out basically everything that's been thrown at him. Now, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges collectively on the same team are like huge and a new thing, but he's played against the Knicks 3 times, right? I'll be curious what the Knicks try to do, because like the Cavs did not trap him until the fourth quarter of the final game of the series, right? They weren't that unique in their coverages. Some teams try switching defenses against the Pacers. Some teams think that offensive rebounding is the best way to stop the Pacers, which is something I'm like, oh, okay, the Knicks are pretty good at that. But regardless, he's just even though he started the season so bad that his season ends up being air quotes worse, he is better. And like his feel and reads are better in a way that makes it harder to stop him or stop the Pacers when he's on the floor. And he's not going to, it might just happen because he misses shots or something, but I would be stunned if there's one of those 6.5 shot stinkers to start the series.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
The Nuggets lose in Game 7. A tough end to a pretty inspiring playoff run. AG plays, but it's not enough.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
I want a takeaway, a question, and an imperative for the offseason. And the question needs to be from this season of something that you're just like, I still don't know. about this. But what's the biggest takeaway from you this season? What's the thing that you walk away being like, I know this?
I know they don't have enough. I know that this season it was very unenjoyable for a lot of Nuggets fans and probably Nuggets media. I think that there were a lot of down moments this year. The defense was horrific for most of the season. The team did not look like it had the star power and burst to start the year off. And I mean star power as in like the suave, the swagger. Like it just wasn't there until the playoffs started. The question I have is Michael Porter Jr., the bench, are they all good enough? Or is that all they have to be able to win another title? Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest question. It's like, do they have enough to move forward and to win another title and to make improvements on where they are now? Or are they going to stay complacent, because of cap situations or because of whatever? They have a lot of holes in the roster. I think that all showed up glaringly. And if they just had maybe 2 less holes, they could be on their way to winning another title this year. But I think that was the difference between winning and losing in Game 7 to OKC.
Okay. Ryan?
Biggest takeaway for me is that Christian Braun, I think that we have learned that Christian Braun is a player that you can trust. There are certain things in his game. He's a flawed player. Like, he's not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say that he isn't. But I just think that if you're going to build around certain guys, if you're going to make sure that you are competitive in an environment like this one, you need guys like that. You need a whole bunch of guys that are willing to buy in, that are willing to go balls to the wall, and are going to continue to work on their game and develop it and become the best version of themselves that they can be. And so heading into this offseason where Christian is up for extension and the Nuggets are kind of at this pivot point with their core, I think that Christian needs to be at least some version of a priority for this team. There are some other things that they're going to have to figure out, but I do think that getting Christian taken care of and making sure that you're getting a good contract there, somebody that, like, you don't want to pay him too terrible, like overly much, because you know who he is. But I also think that those kinds of guys you want around for your team. The question that I have is, what does that mean for the rest of the group? And what does that mean for a team that is pretty clearly unwilling to be into the second tax apron?
That's an off-season question, sir. That's an off-season question.
Okay, then I'll make that the imperative for the offseason. How the hell do you do that? What are you going to do? But then, so for the question is, what does Michael Porter Jr. do for this team that they really need? What do they need that they can't get from a cheaper version and a cheaper role player? What does Michael Porter Jr. do that they need out there?
My big takeaway, I think, from this season is it's impossible to win when everyone's not pulling in the same direction. That was the difference to me from 2023, is everybody was like, we got a real chance to do this. And everybody was locked in. They added guys. They tried to make moves to secure a deeper bench. Even if those guys didn't wind up playing in the playoffs, they helped get them some innings eaters. They had Bruce Brown, they had KCP and AG kind of locked in on the defensive side, providing that everybody knew what they needed to do. Everybody was paid. Everybody understood. And I just think that nobody was on the same page this year. Joker had his best season and one of the best offensive seasons in NBA history. And I've never seen him more miserable. The entire year, he was miserable, and it exuded onto everyone and caused, I think, a lot of pressure and failure because of it. And if you want to say, yeah, because he knew how much this team sucked, I can't blame you. I can't blame you for that. That's a totally fair opinion to have. I think Jamal was not in a great place until the second half of the year, when I think he really did give them a lot over the back half of the season. I think AG was in a really rough spot emotionally, mentally, physically for a lot of the year. I think a lot of guys had questions about what the future was going to mean for them. And then you had the disconnect between Booth and Malone, and all that tension caused the entire organization was not in disarray, but it was definitely disconnected. You were not all locked in with the same mission or the same way or the agreement of how they were going to do it. And that to me meant that it was as frustrating a season as this was, which meant things like you lose to the Wizards twice, which costs you a chance at a top 3 seed. Like they tighten up some of that stuff and they finish with a better record and they get a different lie and they're able maybe to make a conference finals and then maybe who knows, right? Like the season goes differently. My question I think is, I still don't really know what they need around Joker. I don't think I know that right now. I think you need better defenders, but you also need shooters. But you also need another ball handler that can create. But you also need a guy that can create without him. But you also need screeners. But you also need a backup big. Like there's just like a lot of questions I think about this, and Swipe is giving me a face.
One of the big issues that they had like for this playoffs was that Westbrook had good moments, to be clear, but in terms of secondary ball handling when Jamal was being bullied and harassed by some of their like the OKC guards and even some of the Clippers guys, they didn't really have a great secondary ball handler because the best moments from Russ were when he was standing in the corner and hitting threes. And he even did that tonight. Like he was a good enough spacer in a lot of these moments that they made it work. But anytime that he really tried to do the ball handling stuff and do the creation stuff, it just wasn't good enough. So yeah, the secondary ball handler I think is a pretty key. And then if that's not going to be Christian, then maybe I'm wrong. And maybe
I don't think it's as simple as just like put good defenders who can shoot around Jokic. I don't think it's that simple. It's almost that simple, but it's just not quite that simple. So is there something that from the season that you still are kind of like, I'm not sure?
Look, it's not, I really like, don't try to sound like a broken record, but no, I really struggle to think that if a team needs more athletic defenders at the perimeter for a vertically challenged, the worst vertical ever recorded in combine history player in Nikola Jokic, you probably need some players on the perimeter that can make sure, let's not let him get that far, you know? And then some of this is too, like Calvin Booth talked about this last summer. Maybe there's an apparatus like Harry Potter, like forgetio. Everybody just forgot what he said. But he literally said, and he said Nikola Jokic shouldn't lose a playoff series because of 3-point shooting. And then he said, if we need 3-point shooting, we'll address it at the trade deadline. It's like, well, the Nuggets didn't have 3-point shooting. They didn't make open threes in this series. And then on top of that, I think their defense was fine, Matt, like in the playoffs. It was really good for the most part. They played zone. You'd have thought this was 2003 Syracuse, the way they were playing 2-3 zone. They had McNamara at the top of the key. They had Melo on the wing. They had my dog, Hakeem, on the wings. You might not remember him. He was number 1 with the Memphis Grizzlies later on in his career. They performed. They ran a legitimate 2-3 zone, and it worked. But the issue is, Matt, they just needed more players to convert baskets. And if Murray is struggling, that's one thing. But if Porter is struggling, he can't do anything else other than shoot the ball. Can't dribble, can't create, not a great rebounder, and he's not a good defender. So, like, he wasn't adding anything when his shooting went to the wayside. And then off the bench, Julian Strawther, but he's so young. Like, it's so much pressure to ask a 29th overall pick in his second year to be the difference over the course of a series. Like, that's tough for me, Matt. Like, that's a very difficult predicament to be in. And you bought more land on Julian Strawther Island after last game, which you should. You reserve right to buy that. But I think it's really difficult to ask a player to do that. And Matt, I feel like I've said, you need 25 to 31-year-old players who have been here, who know their role, know their job, who can slot into those spots to be around Jokic and Murray. And honestly, if they just had more of those things, I think they're in a way different situation than they are right now. And i.e. Matt Moore, you love looking at the league as a whole. You're great at this. The Indiana Pacers, Matt, what are they? They're 1 through 10, multiple options, multiple guys. You look at the Wolves, they're 1 through 8, multiple options, multiple guys. OKC, multiple options, multiple guys. Now the Knicks, they got 7. But they got 7 guys that can go. And really especially a real 6 that can go. The Nuggets in this playoffs had 5 players they could consistently depend on, and really 4 of them with Porter's injury. I just think that is just like they limited their options so badly that they got into the playoffs and it became all or nothing. So that's been my contention with this. I think they can get better. There's a way to get better. But I think Ryan, I think if you look at the NBA, and Jokic, I believe, just spoke to this in the press conference just now, you have to have people on your bench that solve problems. OKC doesn't win this series without Alex Caruso, y'all. Like, that's insane. I don't think they win without Alex Caruso, respectfully. That's just me, at least. Like, that makes the difference for me, and I think that's what the Nuggets need. They have to have another guy.